Wow, thank you. This is kind of nice. How's everybody doing? Are you well? Okay, good. Well, it's really. I'm just looking around the room, and it's a real pleasure to be with so many amazing people, people who I consider very good friends and teachers as well. I want to just share some of the thinking that's been behind some of the organizations and initiatives that I've been involved with, and sort of put out some challenging thoughts. And inshallah, trying and get you to sort of think about those, and maybe we can take the discussion offline as well. There's a story which I had many years ago, which has really stayed with me, and sort of I've tried to embody in a lot of the work that I do. And many of you know the story of this man that was seen on a beach, and this individual saw this man on the beach, and he was like sort of dancing. And when he came a bit closer, he saw that actually he was picking something up off the floor and he was throwing it into the sea. And when he got a little bit closer, he saw this man was picking up starfish and he was throwing the starfish into the sea. And then so he asked him, "What are you doing?" And then this man said, "Well, all these starfish have been beached. And if I don't throw them back, they're going to die." And he said, "Well, it's impossible. You can't make that difference. Look at that. Look how many starfish there are." And this man just leant down, picked up a starfish, and he threw it into the water. And he said, "I made a difference for that one." And for me, it's about making that change. There's a beautiful poem by Bishop Oscar Romero, and he says that no one person can do everything, but every one person can do something. And then he says, with this realization must come a liberation, that you don't have to do everything, but you have to do that one thing that you can only do. And my story really started, like many of you, sort of really began at university, and I started getting involved with my Islamic society on campus, and then that slowly snowballed into doing work on a regional, national, and then international level. And you know, I made lots of mistakes, and I've learned a lot about myself. And it's been an incredible journey. And something that I've noted, and I'm sure a lot of you will resonate with this experience, that almost every step of the way, when you're trying to make that change, whatever it is, you will meet obstacles and barriers, and people pushing you down and discouraging you. And it sort of hit me that it's not just isolated incidences, that we almost, especially in the Muslim community, have what I call a culture of dissuasion, like almost a system to just push you off. There's politics, and there's fighting and backbiting and all these financial issues. And even to this day, and I won't say how much because my mum will shout me, but I'm owed thousands of pounds from organizations and charities that I've volunteered for who just haven't bothered to pay their expenses. And what's really sad is that this culture of dissuasion pushes away some of the most talented individuals in our community. So to hold that there and to sidestep, some of you know of one of this brilliant organization which is led by a friend and a teacher of mine in California, Ustad Osama Khanna. And I've taken a lot of the principles of what he's been doing. He talks about Ray Oldenburg, who's a brilliant writer. You should check him out. And he champions this idea of the third space, this idea that individuals and communities need spaces where they can be accepted, spaces where they're not going to be judged, spaces where they can, alternative spaces, where they can explore who they are, their identity, what they think about the world, what they're doing, etc. And having visited this organization, I was really moved because I saw there a Muslim institution where, you know, like most of the guys were just straight up gangsters, you know, and a lot of the girls were dolled up, and they were like, you know, I mean, they were flirting in front of my eyes. And I thought, this is a Muslim organization? Okay. These Americans are a bit funny. And then the teacher walked in, and when he spoke, everyone suddenly connected to him. And for me, what was really powerful is that each and every one of those individuals had access to their faith and had access to someone that wouldn't judge them, and they would just listen to them. And just think, a young Muslim in this city, in London, I mean, if he does something, and I'm a doctor and I've got so many stories, honestly, shocking stories. if he does something silly, does something, he takes drugs, he gets a girl pregnant, where does he go? He can't go to his parents. He can't go to the mosque because they're not going to listen to him. So what does he do? And that's the community that we've sort of, that's the challenge that we have, really. And now I sort of look at that and apply it to leadership. And you look at the Muslim community, we have leaders, industry experts across the spectrum. We have people at the top of media, politics, in the arts industry, commerce, education, academia, you name it. There are Muslims who are at the top of all of those fields. How many of those individuals see their success as part of a communal narrative? Their success almost across the board is individual success. They did it on their own, they went against the statistics, against the odds, against the advice, and they made it. And only when they made it is anybody interested in them. Come and speak at my event, join my board, give us your millions of pounds, etc. And some give, but the reality is that most people don't. Most people don't give back. There's an organization did some research and they said there's over 10,000 Muslim millionaires in the UK. 10,000 Muslim millionaires in the UK, and I think over 50 billionaires, right? That's in our country, probably very close to where we are now. How many of those individuals give back? And some do, no doubt, but often, more often than not, it's a sort of tokenistic giving. And I understand, I don't blame them. It's their prerogative. They went and they struggled and hustled, and they made it. So why should they give back? Well, I can kind of understand where they're coming from. So what's interesting, what happens because of this is twofold. That their experience, their resources, their networks, they leave the community. And what happens is the community stagnates. So essentially we hemorrhage that talent. And secondly, as they move away from the Muslim community, more often than not, they also move away from Islam. And that has another interesting effect, that it means our scholarship stagnates because our scholars and teachers are not being interrogated or asked difficult questions. Okay, and I kid you not, today, my Jummah khutbah in a hospital in London, the topic for half an hour was the importance and the reasons why we should marry our first cousins. I'm not joking. And this is a dude who's lecturing to doctors who are like supposed to be clever people. And I mean, it's just shocking. And the thing is, what's more shocking is that this is not shocking. That this is what, your Jummah khutbah was about socks or something, And Dr. Sherman Jackson in the States, he said that the greatest threat to religion in any society is not persecution, but rather apathy born of irrelevance. I'll say that again. The greatest threat to religion in any society is not persecution, but rather apathy born of irrelevance. Muslims are being persecuted, they have been persecuted, and they will be persecuted. Islam will survive. What's going to destroy Muslims is when we become irrelevant. And part of that irrelevance is that our scholars aren't being questioned and our understanding of Islam isn't being refined by our context. Okay? So taking these sort of things together, our focus and our flagship project at the Leaf Network is something called the Planting Seeds Forum. And for me, we have these established leaders, and we try and do some work with them, but quite frankly, they can be a bit difficult. Right now, we know there's 8 or 9 Muslim MPs, okay? In 20, 30 years' time, by pure demographic, there's going to be 20, 30 Muslim MPs, right? It's just going to happen. It's going to happen. Where are those guys now? Maybe they're in this room. But they're in their 20s, they're graduates, they're working hard. They're still in formation and they need support. And what we're doing at the Leaf Network is essentially trying to create that space, that conceptual space, where they can come explore themselves, explore their craft, their field, and explore religion. And all the time, and what makes our programming unique is that we engage world-class Muslim scholars. And I sort of tell the shuyukh, I tell the scholars, look, these guys here are going to change the world. With or without you, they're going to do it. and it's in your interest to know them. And it's not about dogma. It's not about confrontation. It's about inspiring ideas. It's about facilitating conversations. It's about building relationships. And it's not just politics. Our main area is within politics and within arts and culture. And the idea of planting seeds, and this is where the name came from. There's this beautiful story of an old man who was seen to be planting an olive seed. And someone came up to him and said, why are you planting this seed? You'll never see the fruits from this tree. And he said, well, the people before us planted, and like them we plant. And this is our approach to community organizing. This is our approach to leadership, is that it's about laying the foundations. And what's really beautiful about seed is it has to be really deeply implanted into the society that it's in. And what a seed does, even though it's surrounded by dirt and filth, it takes the best out of that. It takes the best from its surroundings and it produces fruit for its surroundings. And this is what our tradition teaches us. So we're working across the board. Alhamdulillah, we've done some really brilliant events. The next one, actually, we're hosting. You've heard about the Palestinian film that won an Oscar or was nominated for an Oscar. So we're doing a screening of the film. Inshallah, we're very lucky to have the director or one of the directors come down and have a discussion with him. We can tell you about that later on. Essentially, and I want to leave with this thought that there are organizations and institutions whose principal aim is to change the world, whose principal aim is to make a difference. And quite frankly, most of them are doing a terrible job at it. And, whether they're called Parliament or whatever, Congress or the UN or Davos, and I want to put it to be, why can't that be you and me? Like, do we not have the best ingredients at our fingertips? The Prophet, peace be upon him, he said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. He said that I have only been sent to perfect noble character, that nobility and beauty exists everywhere, and within our tradition we have the perfection of that. And I'll end with the words, actually this is my email signature if you ever get an email from me, which you probably get a lot of, and I apologize. And it's a rabbi, actually, and he said, if not you, then who? If not you, then who? And if not now, then when? Thank you very much.